Hello. I'm told it's Women's History Month, at least in the US and other parts of the world, but I don't know if it's true of all parts of the world. But I've kind of been doing women's history in these videos, and I'm going to continue that. Women's histories that are hidden or have been abused in any way. And some will be from what Christians call the Bible and what Jews call Torah, and other, holy books that Jews consider holy. But I thought today I want to start going far back to a pharaoh. Did you know that there were women who were pharaohs? Probably you've heard of Cleopatra. She's another one that has certainly been abused. And before I forget, I want to recommend, if you're interested in knowing more about Cleopatra, and like Mary's, there's a lot of Cleopatras. The Cleopatra that's so well known is Cleopatra 7, the 7th Cleopatra, descendant of Ptolemy, who was, I think, half-brother to Alexander the Great. So, Cleopatra certainly was the queen and ruler of Egypt. But long before her was a woman named Hatshepsut. I've told, if you pronounce it, think of it like hot chicken soup, Hatshepsut. That's as close as anyone can tell what her name is pronounced as. But she had a reign 3,400 years ago, about 3,400 years, I think. And it was a very peaceful reign. She reigned as Pharaoh for 20 years, roughly. And she was born to Thutmose I, who then married her off to his only surviving son by another woman, not her mother, Thutmose II. And he died fairly early, and she only had one child of her own that survived, a girl. And if you've heard of her at all, you will probably have heard that some variation of how she took the son of another woman by her deceased husband, not deceased at the time he got the other woman pregnant, obviously, but how she took that child, or she stole being Pharaoh from him. Yet the reality is, and I will have the spelling of her name and a book or two that I recommend on her, as well as Cleopatra, and some other books that I'll be mentioning in the description below. But what you are less likely to have heard about her is that she was well educated and very smart, and primarily used peaceful means to enlarge and enrich the Egyptian empire, ruling both Upper and Lower Egypt. And she did it through trade, which benefited the other countries and lands that she was trading with, as well as the Egyptian people. One of the better known ones, the huge expedition, several expeditions to a land called Punt. And there's much debate about what that land is today. And it was all certainly before my time, so I can't tell you. But what is well known is all the riches she and the caravans brought back. Everything from gold and myrrh, you know, gifts that Jesus was given, trees, leopards, there are so many herbs and spices and just wondrous things. And the people were very happy with her rule. In her mind, I doubt she believes that she stole it. And that's really what I want to talk about. First of all, she was the daughter of the human Thutmose I, but was raised believing she was also the daughter of the god Amun-Re, which is a sun god, the same god that Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, worshipped, and why Christians that are seen as saints are always portrayed with the sun, behind their heads in paintings and sometimes in sculptures. So she was raised believing that she was part divine, and therefore certainly must have believed that she had some right to the throne. But she was queen with Thutmose II, and when he died, leaving no male heirs with her, but only with a lesser woman, she did, in fact, essentially adopt and make that child her stepson. Now, there's people that say she stole him, although she continued to share him with his biological mother, and he was an infant. And they ignore not only what she did during her reign, which was tremendous building projects, including the expansion of Thebes itself, a temple that was one of the 7 wonders of the world of Egypt, and the peaceful reign, the success of it. But they also ignore the peaceful transition of power. Once that child, who became Thutmose III, was of age, she gave it back to him. She gave him the title Pharaoh. Now, from other history, just think about what you know of history when power passes in a family line to an infant. Somebody steps in. And a lot of the time, they're people with not very good motives, a lot of greed, almost always men. That child wasn't going to reign. So I would say by her adopting him, making him her stepson, and continuing to involve his biological mother, she provided him with connection and protection, things that he badly needed. And when she assumed becoming full Pharaoh, about 7 years into her reign as his regent, his protector, that could have also been another way of connection and protection, so that people weren't plotting with him to overthrow her, all the while knowing that she would give the reins to him, that she would let him reign when he was old enough. But first he needed to be educated, wise, and ready. Now, she had been completely forgotten until 82, certainly anyway, in the late 1800s, when finally some hieroglyphs were understood to be referring to a female pharaoh. And a lot of the reason for why she hadn't been known about is because many inscriptions and statues referring to her or of her had been defaced or destroyed. A lot of Egyptians you talk to will say it was Christians that did that in the 4th century. Christians have done many things, but most secular archaeologists that I'm aware of and historians say that it happened sometime toward the end of the reign of Thutmose III. Not at the beginning, which initially there were people, historians and archaeologists, saying he erased her image from vengeance, anger, that she had become Pharaoh in his place. How could a 2-year-old be Pharaoh? And it wasn't at the beginning of his reign that these things happened. No one's really sure it even happened during his reign. There are many hypotheses about that. And that's going to bring me to 2 books. One, I need to see if I can find the name, and I will have it in the description below, is called The Woman Who Would Be King, Hatshepsut's Rise to Power in Ancient Egypt. And that is by an Egyptologist, archaeologist, last name of Cooney. I think it's C-O-O-N-E-Y. And it's very well researched. It is nonfiction, but it is from a woman's eyes. And isn't that about time? And that's going to bring me to another book that's much older, written in the 90s by Rhianne Eisler. I will again put this in the description. And it's called The Chalice and the Blade. That's important for 2 reasons. First, the chalice and the blade, one of the primary theses that Rhianne Eisler has in the book, or purports in the book, is that as more women get into archaeology, we will have a fuller understanding of history, because history has been written by men through their eyes. And as I've said in other videos, reading the Christian New Testament and really most of Torah and what Christians call the Old Testament, you would think women were silent. We're not. Never were. I guess never will be. And Eisler in The Chalice and the Blade uses a dig that more women were getting involved in Crete at a place called Knossos as her primary model for, now that these women were involved, they were seeing some different things from, a different take on the same evidence that historians had long ago said, oh, this culture, because it had a female deity, is matriarchal. And as female archaeologists have been more involved, they're saying, no, it did have a female deity, but it looks like it may have been egalitarian. And that's interesting too, because there are some reports that say that Hatshepsut may have had some links to Knossos, to Crete. The dates don't really work out from what we know completely, but it's still an interesting possibility. It's not part of the books that I mentioned. It's not even part of the video. It just came to mind. But before I finish, what I want you to remember is she was a great pharaoh. She protected her people during a peaceful reign, made the country better, helped raise, tutor, and ensure the success of Thutmose III, handed everything over peacefully There's much to be admired in this woman. Just as there's much to be admired in another woman named Hypatia or Hypatia. And I will probably be releasing a video on Hypatia about the same time this video goes out, because she too is from Egypt. She was a famous, brilliant mathematician, astronomer, philosopher, connected to the world-renowned Library of Alexandria that was destroyed fully sometime in the 4th century. Near the time of her murder. And a book I will mention on her, which is fiction, but there's very little known of her, so it almost has to be fiction, but it's well-researched fiction, is by a woman named Longfellow, K.I. Longfellow. And it is flow down like silver. You can watch for it in the next video. So, much of the rest of the videos for this month will be about women and women's issues, which when you think of it, are everybody's issues, right? Just as war is everybody's issue. Love God, love each other, treat each other as you wish to be treated and deserve.